now, and if anyone able to see me, can you just give a confirmation that you're able to see me? Cool. So I see some comments are already coming. That is great. Great to see. So today, what are we going to cover? What is this particular live about? Let's talk about that first. So this live is about or related to an initiative that we have started. Is called 40 days of JavaScript. So let me take probably a couple of minutes first to talk about what is 40 days of JavaScript. And I'm going to share my screen now. And again, I need a confirmation from one of you who can actually confirm that you are able to see my screen. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, and on my screen you are able to see my YouTube channel. And if you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe. So here, if you come to the playlist, and inside playlist, you will find a playlist called 40 Days of JavaScript. So this is the playlist that I'm going to finish, and this is the playlist that I am talking about. A quick glance of 40 Days of JavaScript is the plan is to break the entire JavaScript, the fundamentals, project building, the logic building, the thought process, everything in 40 sessions. Now, why 40 sessions? There is really no solid logic behind it, but when I started sketching it out, I felt like it requires at least 40 sessions, maybe more than that. So, if you see, like, you can finish JavaScript in 1 hour, it is not possible. It really requires some time, right? Because you need to go through some of the fundamentals first, which is very important, and then you have to learn how to do logic building using JavaScript. Then you have to get into building logic plus how to apply them to solve the use cases. You have to understand the data structure in JavaScript, then asynchronous programming. You have to understand DOM, object oriented programming. So there are a lot of things, debugging and all. So for that reason, I have broken these entire things into multiple modules. Module 1 we have already finished, where we have just put the initial stone using operators, functions, loop, how to do the logic building, small problem solving, all this thing. Right now we are into module 2, where we have finished a lot in module 2, and tomorrow, at the time of doing this live, tomorrow we are going to get a new session on error handling in JavaScript. Then there will be debugging arrays and everything. After the module 2, we are going to get into DOM, understanding DOM, working with DOM, doing project with DOM. So those are the things that we are going to spend a lot of time. Then the asynchronous JavaScript, I think one of the most tricky part of JavaScript itself, and to code the real world programming code, how to debug that, how to write good code, clean code in terms of asynchronous JavaScript. Those are the things that we're going to talk over here. Then we're going to go a little more advanced with object-oriented programming, prototype, classes, advanced data structure in JavaScript. We're going to talk about those. And the last one would be like doing a big project along with how to face JavaScript interview questions. The thing that I'm actually looking for, by the time we'll go to JavaScript interview questions, you guys should ask me, and give me like a lot of confidence that, hey, I have already gone through this, so I know like what kind of questions that I can anticipate and how to answer them, right? But we'll still go through it and try to find out some of the key areas for the interview questions. We'll talk about how the memory management works, what is memory leak, how to address some of those problems, how to do performance optimizations, etc. Right? So with that, we'll try to end these initiatives. And since I started, I have figured out like, sometimes you feel, hey, whatever you planned is probably not the great one. Probably when I was planning, it was not that great. So change it. So I keep changing some of the sessions just to make sure that I am providing the best thing to you and you're learning the thing in the best possible ways. So some of the sessions, some of the lessons might change, on the way. And I've also provided a free, I won't say book, a progress tracker to you. You can download that, and each of the session that we are going through, you can take notes in it because it is a template, and you can utilize that note later point in time in your career anytime. So you might not have to revisit these videos ever again. If you have taken a really, really good note, you can just go through those notes, go through those examples. It becomes a short book for you, short JavaScript book for you if you're taking notes really well. So if you have not downloaded, you can actually download this. It's completely free. You can use it for daily sessions and taking notes. And the last thing about 40 days of JavaScript is like how we work. For every session, we provide task where you can find it once you come to github.com/tapaScript. If you want, you can follow this. Under repositories, you will find something called 40 days of JavaScript. And here, daily basis, all the code, all the task will be there for you. So you can go there, you will find a task.md file. You will have all the tasks for you. You will do the task, then come to our Discord and you can discuss about it. If you're stuck somewhere, ask questions wherever possible. I pitch in, but I have also seen like community started gearing up. They also start taking things as they start answering. That is what I love very much. So sometime intentionally I don't answer. I want somebody else to answer. But when it takes some time, after some time I try to answer it by myself. So please engage in the community as well. All this link, whatever I have just now spoken, if you don't have those link, or if you're somebody who is now first time watching this live, don't know about 40 days of JavaScript initiative, all these links will be available in this particular live's video description after the live is over. So you can get all this link. Also, if you go to the YouTube channel, if you come to 40 days of JavaScript playlist, go to any of the video. In those videos description also, all these links are present. You can access it right away. So this is what is about 40 days of JavaScript. No more talking about it, and I'm going to close this right away. So the next thing that what I'm going to talk about today is we have provided a bunch of tasks across last 13 sessions, and we're going to do 14 session tomorrow. So on this 13 sessions task, there are few tasks which are a bit tricky, and we have discussed those on our Discord as well, and even on the video comments. So I thought, okay, let's do some of this task over here. Some of the things I'm going to do live coding, some of the things I have already coded. I'm just going to copy paste that and trying to explain it because I want to save time. And then I've also shared before this live a link that you can ask any question if you want. I'm going to take that question. So I got a bunch of questions, almost like 10 questions. So I'm going to go through those questions, going to give answer. And as the live is progressing, if any of you have any further questions, I'm going to take them also towards the end. So overall, we'll be trying to finish it around 40-45 minutes or 1 hour time. So that's the objective of it. Let's get started. I'll open up my VS Code. This is what probably you are able to see. And here I have created a question.md file. This is what it is. So in this question.md file, I have a bunch of questions that are taken from the task file, the task that I have given for last 13 sessions. And I'm going to discuss each of these tasks one by one, okay? One is, the first task is about like create an electricity bill calculator, okay? And the way that I'll be targeting this task is like from basic to advanced, because that's how our sessions were also, right? The first session was about what is JavaScript, how we set it up. Then we went into variables, then operators, loop, and things like that. So the first task that whatever we have over here, it is more about to work with the variables and the operators, if you see. So it's talking about calculate basically the electricity bill with this parameter. Say create a units variable. Based on this value, you will calculate the total electricity bill for a month, okay? Now, if each day consume the units and each unit cost 150 rupees, how much you will be charged for a month? It's a simple calculation. And also it was asked like if there is a 20% discount on the annual payment, how much will you be charged for an annual payment? So these are the conditions and these are the things that we need to solve. So if I go to index.js file and over here, let me put this question so that I know how to answer it. Okay. So first thing is create a units variable. And this unit for electricity is usually unit per day, isn't it? Per day, how much unit you are consuming, that is what it is. So first thing that I'm going to do over here, I'm going to create a variable called units per day. Okay, this is my consumption basically. And then there is something called unit cost is 150 rupees. So I can create another constant saying cost per unit is 150. Now here, as I also mentioned in the variables video, is like whenever you want to work with value, you have to make sure that you store that value somewhere, because you never know whether that value will be used multiple time in your program. When you have to use that value multiple time in your program, it is good to store that value in a variable and use that variable instead multiple time than the raw value, because tomorrow if the value change, today cost per unit is 150, tomorrow new government comes and they increase the cost or reduce the cost, so you have to change this cost per unit. Now if you take this 150 value and put that 150 value raw way in your calculation, and tomorrow if it has to change, you have to change it multiple times. But right now you have created a constant with a variable, you will be using this variable in many places, and if tomorrow's value change, you have to change in only one place. So this is the advantage, right? Now how will you calculate the monthly bill? Here also, how many days in a month? So some cases the days in a month is 30. I mean, that's kind of a normal. But many cases the days in a month is 31. In February, except leap year, the days in a month is 28. So again, monthly bill means if your daily unit is this, you cannot blanket multiply it by 30. Then your calculation will go wrong for the February month, isn't it? Because it's only 28 days. Or March, where it is 31 days. So what you will do, you will be creating again another variable called days in a month. And you can initialize with 30, but for a different month, you can just change this particular value. And then for that particular month, it will give you the calculation. Okay. I am not writing function here because when I had given this task to you, by that time the function session was not completed. So I am pretending that I am still in the third day, where we have done this operators and all, not function. So I am writing the code from that fashion. So anybody who is watching this right now, who is on the second and third day, you don't know the function yet, but you can actually make your code like this. Now, how can I find out monthly bill? What will be my logic? So monthly bill logic will be the how many days in a month into whatever the cost per unit into the units per day, correct? If I multiply them together, the resultant value will be my monthly bill. So I can do here const. I have just created this variable so that I have to type less. Monthly bill equals to this. So my monthly bill is days in month into cost per unit into unit per day. Okay, what will be my annual bill? My annual bill, if monthly bill is this much, annual bill will be just multiplied by 12. Now here I don't see a need of creating a variable for how many months are there in a year, because that's not going to change. That will be always 12, like 12 months in a year. It's never going to be 13, 11 or 10. So I can now do a const annual bill without a discount is monthly bill into this 12. So here I didn't find a reason to create a variable like how I have done for others. Now you understand, right? When you're coding, how you have to think about logic, like even creating a variable. Why would you create a variable unnecessarily? Because everything you are creating, somebody has to manage it. Your program has to manage it, correct? No? Now I have to go for a discount, isn't it? What is a discount? Discount is 20% discount. So how can you find out a discount, 20% discount on the annual bill? So you take the annual bill, this particular variable, and you can multiply this one with 0.2. 0.2 is nothing but a 20% discount. Now you can do const discount equals to this is your discount amount. Now if your program had told that every month this discount might change, you would have created a variable again for the discount and would have used that variable instead, because you have to change the discount value again and again. Now finally, what will be with discount? Const, I'll copy this variable, paste it over here. Instead of without, I'll say with. It will be your annual bill without minus whatever the discount that you have, isn't it? So these are the two things. Your annual bill with discount is this much and your monthly bill will be this much. These are the two things that we wanted in the task and we got it. So in this task, what we understand is like how you can effectively create your variable, where you should not create your variable, how to do simple calculations, and then finding your final result, and how to think through when you are actually building a logic. So whatever is written, given you as a use case, this is how, in your real life also things will come. Somebody will tell you in a textual format, like this is what they want you to build. Now, once you read that, what you have to do is like you have to translate that into your program. That is why we developers are there. Otherwise, anybody can do this job, isn't it? So reading each of the line of the requirement, how can you translate that to your logic? That is what is called logic building. Nothing is more than that. And this logic building can be done only with the help of understanding of the fundamentals, like the variables, the operators, the logical things, all these things, that what we have learned. So I hope that if you have done this task, great. If you have not done this task, now you know like how to do this one, right? So let's move to the next one quickly. Okay, this is probably the very easy one. Like, which triangle? A triangle has three sides, we know, and there are different kind of triangle. If all sides are equal, then we call it as equilateral triangle. If two sides are equal, it's a different kind of triangle. If all sides are different, then it is a different kind of triangle. So here, reading into this requirements itself, what we can understand is like we will be given the size of all the sides of a triangle. Triangle can have only three sides, correct? It cannot have more than three sides. So we will be given the size of each of the side. Taking the size of each of the side, now I have to determine what kind of triangle it is. So if you read these three things in plain English or any of the language, your mother tongue also in mind, you will always read it like this. Okay, if all sides are equal, then I'll be calling it this. Else, if these two are equal, I'll be calling it in this way. If all sides are different, then I'll be calling it in this way. So it means I'm already talking about some kind of condition. If, else, right? Plain English. So if I have to translate that into my logic building now, I'll be using if, else, that particular condition, right? Condition and or the condition branching. That's what I'll be using. But along with that, I also have to use a few things like equal, different. So if something is equal to something, something is greater than to something, something is less than to something, we have operators for that as well, right? We know that condition to build. So to solve a problem like that, you will have say three sides, very, very easy problem to solve over here. And after getting the three sides, what you are going to do, you are going to probably check whether, all the sides are once you get the sides, basically all the sides are equal. So how will you check all the sides are equal? Let's go over here. Let's start writing this code a little bit. So if all the sides are equal, that means I'll be writing something like, let's say I have three sides over here. Const A equals to 10, const B equals to 12, const C equals to 5. Okay, so I have A, B and C. So do you think this particular logic is going to give me the equilateral triangle, or I have to still do and C equals to A? Is it required? So when you're building the logic, if we know that if A equals to B and if B equals to C, is automatically that A is equals to C, correct? Na? So why I'm actually bringing this one in picture, just to make sure that you are thinking correctly. Coding is great, you're writing a logic, but you won't do things which is unnecessary. That's why in the previous example, unnecessary, I was not creating variable. But here also, I have to make sure that unnecessary, I am not putting the logic. If we know if A equals to B and B equals to C, then it is automatically A equals to C or C equals to A. So I don't have to effectively put this condition at all. I don't have to do this condition at all. But when you got the requirement, it felt like if everything, all the sides are equal, then you'll call it equilateral. So by default, it comes in your mind, okay, I'll be doing A equals to B and B equals to C and C equals to A. That extra logic, that last logic is really not required, right? So that is why you have to make sure when you're putting the logic, how you are actually putting the logic. Now the second thing was that if two sides are equal, then how will you say that two sides are equal? You can do if A equals to B or B equals to C or A equals to C or C equals to A, right? So this is how I'll be writing this else if. I'm writing it over here. So here I'm saying if A equals to B or B equals to C or A equals to C. Here it makes sense to check all the side because here the operator is OR. If A equals to B or B equals to C, it doesn't guarantee that A and C also will be equal. So this is how the logic building works. It is purely your mental thinking and with a paper and pen sitting and trying to figure out, okay, this is the step-by-step logic works. If you find it hard in the beginning, believe me, there are millions of other developers like you who are filling in this way, and there are billions of other developer was there before you who failed the same way, and probably they are doing great today. So there is no shame, there is no problem if you find logic building is hard. Logic building only comes when you start thinking. Take a pen and paper, try to put your brain on it, and try to figure out what is really relevant, right? So we know, like, if A equals to B and B equals to C, it doesn't guarantee that A and C also will be same. So I have to explicitly put this one with the OR condition saying that whether A also equals to C or not. So only in that case, if only two sides are equal, only in that case I'll be telling that this particular triangle is this particular type of triangle. Else, I can clearly tell the third kind of triangle that I can return from here, right? So this is how I will be thinking the logic, and this is how I'll be doing the stuff. Now, if someone putting this inside a function, this entire thing inside a function, and taking A, B, C as the parameter of that function, you can do some extra logic to it. You can first check whether anybody has supplied A, B, or C as 0, because there cannot be a triangle whose size or size or length of any of the side could be 0. So you can actually return saying that, hey, invalid length of the side, because side should be at least greater than 0, right? So those are the logic also you can put from your side when you are actually building something. That doing that extra thing is called delighter, the customer delighter. That's what we say. If customer asks for A, B, C, and if you try to give that customer a little bit more with the D, especially people who are working or on the freelancing gig, these are the things that you can always do. That customer asks for A, B, C, and you're giving a little bit more, the D, to the customer, it will be delighting that customer, and it will be really good scenario for you. So when you're building logic, try to figure out like what are the different other things also you can bring into picture. All right, so let's go to next one. Yeah, this one I think people asked me like on Discord. Some of you already solved this actually. So reverse the digits of a number. So how can you do this? Let me tell the logic of it. Okay, then you can again go ahead and try this one. So let's take this is a number like 6, 7, 8, 9 is a number. Okay, now some of you, when you solved it, you made this number as a string, and then you use the reverse method of the string to make it like 9876. No, that's a cheating. This is a number, you have to treat it like a number. You cannot make it a string, reverse, and again make it an integer. Okay, end result was correct, but if you treat it as a number, how are you going to do it? It's pretty easy actually. This was the task from the loop, I guess. So what we have to do is, we have to take this input number, and after taking this input number, in the operator session, we have learned about this particular operator, right, which gives you the module or the reminder. So if you do a reminder of 10, right, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then if you do a reminder of 10, if you do this, what exactly is going to give you? It is always going to give you this last digit 9. Okay, this is how you should be thinking, because to reverse, first you need the last digit and you have to place it in the first. Then you need to know this digit and you have to place it second. Then this digit, then place it here, then this digit and place it here. This is the logic, right? If you do it in the brain and the pen and paper, that's how you will be doing. Now to extract out the last digit from here, you can do it module by 10, which is going to give you this 9. Okay, so this 9 you have to store it in some variable. You will be storing it in some variable. Now next, what you have to find out? You have to find out 8. How can you find out 8? This is where actually the main crux of this particular logic, and this is a very known problem. It is not like that I have given it for the first time. You will see this problem many interview questions over internet and all. So solution is for that is, one way that you can do, the remainder of 10 is going to give you the last digit, which is like 9, is going to give you 9. But if you do divide by 10, what is going to give you? If you do divide by 10, it is going to give you 678.9, isn't it? It's going to give you 678.9. This is what is going to give you. Now on top of this, if you apply JavaScript math some function, say math.floor. If you do math.floor, what is going to do is going to discard this one, this 0.9, and it is going to give you only 678. So now if I do math.floor of this is going to give me 678. Now you have 678, your 9 gone, 9 first time gone, came here, you have 678. Now if you repeat the same process, again take 678, do a module of 10, what you're going to get? You are going to get 8. Now you can place that 8 after 9. Correct? Now again divide this one by 10, do a floor, now you will get 67 next time. See how the things are kind of getting smaller? You are actually making this particular number smaller, taking one number from the end, and then even in one variable you are just start putting that particular number one by one so that the sequence kind of come up, right? So this is how the logic of this one. So let's do this one. 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll bring it to a state and then go to index.js file. And over here, what we can do, let, or I say, let number equals to 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll store this number so that tomorrow you want to change this number to something else and want to calculate the reverse, it will come. Now, after I reverse the number, I have to hold that number also in some variable, right? So I can say let reversed equals to, I'll initialize it with 0. Now, each of the digit, for each of the number, I have to modulate it by 10 and then I have to divide by 10. I have to do it for each of this number over here. So this is where you need a loop. And the best loop over here, we have actually told that when to use for loop, when to use while loop, when to use while loop. All these things I have explained in details in the session, so I am not coming over here. In this case, the best thing is to use a while loop. Why? If you don't understand, please go to the session and I have given a lot of examples to explain that. What are I going to check? Now, if I take 6, 7, 8, 9, what I was explaining, if I divide by 10, it will become 6, 7, 8. Again divide by 10, it will become 67. Again divide by 10, it will become 0.6. So ultimately, if I do a math.floor on it, ultimately the last number will be always the 0. Okay. So I can check this particular number whether it is greater than 0 or not. Till that time, I want to loop this particular thing. Now I want to get each digit. I'll say each digit. What will be the each digit? I have the number and then I will module it by 10. So this is going to give me first the last digit, which is like 9, what we understood over here, right? And then I have this reversed. If I get this each digit, which is 9 in this case, so what I can do, I can get this variable, when you want to sum off of each of the digit, what you do, you initialize a sum variable and you do sum equals to sum plus whatever the next digit, right? In the loop, that's how you do a summation of the things. So in the loop, when you have this particular variable created outside, in this loop, you want to store each of the digit one by one, isn't it? So for that, what you will be doing, you have the initial value of your reserved, you will multiply that value with 10 and whatever the digit you got, that particular digit you will add up to. Now this will give you the reverse digit always. Now you have this num. The num was calculated from this one. Now the remainder, how will you get over here? You will be doing num equals to, you have the actual value of num and then you divide by 10, which will give you 678.9. You will put that into math.floor, that will give you 678 and that will become your new num. So now if this loop continues, first time it is 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, 6, 7, 8, 9 is greater than 0. First each digit, first time it will give you 9. Okay. Now this will give you, reverse this, initialize with 0, right? 0 into 10 is 0 plus each digit first time was 9. So you got it 9 over here. Okay. Now your num become 6789 divided by 10, which is 678.9. math.floor will become 678. Okay, you will loop it again because 678, the new num is again greater than 0. So next time each digit will be 8. Correct. Now this was 9 before, so 9 into 10 is 90 and each digit is 8 now, so it will become 98. And this guy will become 67. So now again 67 is greater than 0, great, so this will be 7. Now 98 into 10 is 980 plus 7 is 987. Excellent. Now this guy will become 6. 6 is greater than 0. Now 6 module 10 is, of course, what do you think it will be? So each digit will be that will come as a 6. So now it will be 9870 plus 6. This will be 9876, and this will result into 6 divided by 10 is 0.6. Math.floor of 0.6 is 0. Now loop will check is 0 greater than 0. No, it is not greater than 0. So it will terminate the loop. It will come out of it. And at this stage, if you get your reversed, this one, the reversed is already calculated with 9876. Okay, so this is one way that you can do. Is a very known problem. Solutions might be available many places, but just wanted to explain that this is how you should be thinking about the logic and breaking the things. The more you do, the better you get at. Okay, so let's go to something. I'll come back to this one after some time because I have spent a lot of time with the logic. Let's talk about this call stack problem, right? So create a call stack execution diagram for this flow. I explained in the function session, like, how function gets into the call stack, how it gets executed, and it comes out of the call stack. So let me just take a screenshot of this guy and copy this, go to my browser once, and I have this Excalibur over here. Yes. So see this one. I have drawn this already for you guys. Let's take the code somewhere here. Control V. Yeah. Let's take the code over here. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, here. Now let's see. I have function f1, then function f2, function f3. Inside f3 there is a f1, and then I'm executing f2, f3, f1. The question was, draw the picture what will happen to the call stack, basically execution stack, based on whatever your understanding is. So how things will work? If this program JavaScript has to execute, we know that there are multiple phases, right? We have a global execution context. In that there is a creation phase, execution phase, then there is a function execution context. For each of the function, there is a creation phase, there is an execution phase. We all know this one. Execution context session, we have went really deep and understood this. As we're dealing with only function over here, let's talk about the function execution context. First, what happened? All these functions are defined. So function, where it goes, it's a non-primitive data type. So it goes to heap memory, discrete memory. So that's why this function definition will go, it will be stored somewhere. Now let's talk about the execution. First time, let's assume there is nothing in the stack because there is nothing was getting executed. And we know, like, once a function has to get executed, it will go to the stack. The execution happen, it comes out of the stack. That's how it is. So the first line says F2. So whenever we have F2, that means F2 will go inside the stack. So first time stack was empty. Now F2 is inside the stack. I'll go to the execution of F2. Inside F2, there is really nothing. I mean, there is nothing means there is no other function is getting executed. There might be few things. There might be some console.log and everything, but no other function is getting executed. So F2's execution is over. Now F2 will come out, right? So F2 came out. Then what happened? Then we found F3. Now F3 gets in. F3 gets inside the stack because it has to get executed. Inside F3, it finds another function is getting called or invoked, that is F1. Whenever a function is getting invoked, the function gets placed inside the function execution stack or the call stack. That is what we are seeing. So F3's execution will not be over in this particular line. Rather, it will get into the execution of F1. So F1 will get into the execution of it. So F1 will also get into the stack. F1 doesn't have any other function to call. F1's execution is over. It comes out of the stack. Again, F3 only over there. And then after F1 over here, there is nothing else. So that means F3's execution is also over. So F3 also comes out. And then finally you have F1, and then F1 gets inside the stack. Okay. Then after F1's execution is also over, there is nothing else to put inside the stack. Your stack become empty. So this is how the stack diagram and you can actually improve it little bit more maybe. So for example, when F3 came out and F1 going inside, in between the stack will become empty because F3 came out and then F1 is going out, inside of it. But overall, if you see, this is what the, call stack, what will happen to the call stack. So this is good. Now let's go back to the other questions. Okay. Draw an execution context diagram of the following code and share the thing. So this was actually a little bit more complex, and we wanted an execution context diagram from it. And people who have attended the execution context session, they understand things pretty well, I'm sure, very clearly. In case you have not attended or you want to revise it, so let's go through this particular example once. What it is, there is simple like one example, right? We have a variable called message. It has a value called I can do it. And there is a summation function defined which takes two parameter, add them up and then return. There is a multiplication, multiply them, return. There is a calc function. What it does, it actually take the sum function, again add it to the output of the mul function, then divide it by 2 and return the value. That's what calc does. There is something called get result, which just return the value of calc. And finally, we call get result with 8 and 5. So when you call get result with 8 and 5, A become 8, B become 5. Calc will be called, this particular thing will be passed. Calc will call sum, then sum's execution over, then mul's execution over, add them up, divide by 2, return. And that's how I get the answer, right? Now, if I have to think through from the execution context side of it, how I'll be thinking through, and or why we'll be thinking through. That's the first question, overall. You can do this particular thing like a mental math. Okay, 8 will go here, 5 will go here, you will add it up, these things will come up. But doing the exercise through execution context way, it gets imprinted in your mind, right? In each of the stage, what exactly happens. And when you go to the advanced session where we're going to talk about memory management, garbage collection, all these things are going to be very relevant to you. Then starting fresh at that point in time, right? So that was the objective of touch base with execution context, memory, and all these things. So let's see like how this particular diagram can goes like. And many of you have given pretty right answer to that. So you can also validate it. Okay, this is Q6. I have drawn it. Okay, so this is the code below. This is the message and all these functions and all these things. Now we know like how the things gets managed, right? For anything primitive, it gets managed in the stack. For anything non-primitive, it will go to the heap. So I try to draw both of them. Like you have the stack over here, bunch of stack and stack representation, and you have the heap memory also. So we want to know like each stage, what exactly happening. So when JavaScript load this particular file, into its environment, we know that what it creates. It creates something called a global execution context. So this is what is the GEC, and it gets inside the stack. So GEC is placed inside the stack. And along with it, what it does, it creates memory for its primitive, non-primitive, all these things. So here there is something called message. So it will create a memory for message, and it's a primitive value. So message, it will be created, kept in the stack. And it is not going to initialized with undefined. Why? Because the message is not initialized with var. It is created with const. So with const and let, it won't be initialized with undefined. But if you are done with var, it would have initialized with undefined. That is also connected to the concept of wasting and temporal zone, right? Temporal dead zone that we have learned. So now after putting message over here, it is going to look into, oh, I have 4 functions, 1, 2, 3, 4 functions. Of course, these functions are not going to get into stack. They're going to get stored into the memory. Let's assume that there is a heap memory, there are discrete memory location, and this is the memory location address, and each of the addresses, there is a get result, sum, calc, mul, all these function definitions are put in, right? And this all happened in the global execution context, the creation phase itself. Now in the execution phase, what will happen is it will be trying to execute things, right? Now we know like there is a message, we know like there is a get result, we know there is a calc, sum, everything. Now you can also imagine thing in this way that as we have this get result, I can just copy this guy, paste it over here in the creation phase itself. It has some idea about what get result is about. It's a function and it is stored in a memory location called XA01. This is what we are saying, and say like it is referring to this particular memory location. The same thing is going to happen for calc, sum, mul, everything. All the informations are stored over here in the global execution context creation phase. This entire table is stored, entire thing is over here, right? Why it is useful? Because later point in time when you get into the execution phase, it will be very easy to find out where get results definition is located, and it can put it inside the call stack, execute it, and kind of take it out. So that is how these arrows are. So like how get result is over here, like that there will be one for calc, there will be one for sum, there will be one for mul, and there will be arrows. Imagine the arrows to each of this memory location. That's how the creation phase is over. In the execution phase, first what it will do, it will, for the variable, it will assign the value. So message will have a value called I can do it. So message value will be over here. I'm not writing over here because of the space constraint. This particular message value will be there, like I can do it, whatever. Okay. Then there is nothing to do here because this is a definition, not execution, definition, not execution, definition, not execution, definition, not execution. But this is an execution because here we are calling the function. The moment we call a function, what JavaScript is going to do for this function, JavaScript is going to create a function execution context and going to put this particular function into call stack. So that's why then the next one you are seeing that get result gone inside the call stack. Get result means this particular function. Now for this function also there will be a creation phase and the execution phase. In creation phase, what will happen is variables will be initialized. What are the variables it has? It has A and B as the local variable. Low A and B memory will be created, right? And then its execution phase will start. What is this execution phase means? Execute this particular function. The moment it try to execute this function, it's seeing that, hey, there is one more function I'm calling from here, calc. So that means I have to create now another function execution context and I have to put calc inside the call stack. So calc has come over here. You're able to see this. Now it will go inside calc. Okay, calc also will have two different phases, creation phase and execution phase. Creation phase A and B, okay, fine, memory created for A and B. Execution phase, I'm seeing that I have two functions now to deal with. One is sum, one is mul. And they are actually separated with the plus operator, which executes from left to right. So that means first sum will be executed and then mul will be executed. So that's how you are seeing sum over here, and the control will go inside the sum. Similarly, again another function execution context because sum is in the call stack. A and B will be created, then it will be executed. Once the execution is over, sum will be the first one to come out of the stack because sum's execution is over. And then the sum is not here. The next thing that to put is the mul. And if you see over here, the calc is still in the call stack because calc execution is not yet over unless sum's execution, mul's execution is over, they summed up and it returned from this particular function. Until this particular line gets executed, calc is not going to get over with its execution, and that's how calc is not going to come out of the call stack. Simple. So that's why we are seeing calc over here. Sum is done. Now mul will get inside. Mul will be done. Mul will come out. Once mul comes out, we have the value of sum. We have the value from mul. We can add it up, divide by 2. The return from the calc is over. Calc's execution context is over. So calc also will come out. Once calc come out, then where calc was called from? Calc was called from this get result. After this, there is nothing else because after return statement, all are unreachable code. You cannot reach it. So that means this particular execution is also over. Get results execution is also over. So finally, get result is also going to come out, and you have the GEC, and then the global execution context is also gone. You have the stack empty. So this is how the things will progress. And in each of the stage where each of these functions are coming out, for example, this get result has come out from here, right? Get result has come out from here. So it means that particular reference that we were keeping, or JavaScript was keeping in the stack to refer like what is get result mean. Once get results execution is over, that reference is no more required. This particular thing is no more required. So there is no reference is also required. So that is where the garbage collection will come into picture, and you really don't need these references anymore. It will get emptied, sequentially. We'll get to this in much more deeper way when you go to the advanced JavaScript. But if you start understanding from now itself, like in each of the line, when JavaScript is executing the thing, what exactly happening at a high level between stack, heap, and all these cases, I think your life will be very beautiful and you'll enjoy it, a lot. So this is what the other question was. Let's take few more questions. Okay, what will be the output of this and why? I don't think I have to run it. It's pretty easy. So this is a question coming from scope. Here, something has created outside of a function. So whenever we create something outside of a function, we call it as a global scope. So in a global scope, we have created a variable called x and we have assigned a value. Whenever we are creating something inside a function, we call it as a function scope. But here one thing to notice, we are using the same variable name with the outer one. So when we use in a scope inside scope, the same variable name from the outer scope, what we do? We do a variable shadowing, correct? So when you do the shadowing, what will happen? The closer scope, means closest scopes value will take the priority. So if I have a console.log over here, after this, it is definitely going to print outer, not going to print global, because with the shadowing, now the value is replaced with outer. Now when you go to the inner, again a shadowing is happening inside the inner function scope from the outer function scope. So of course the console.log over here, it will be inner. If we don't have this one, then what will happen? With our scope logic, what it will do, if it is not able to find it in its own scope, it is going to look outside scope, right? So I'm not able to find this variable x inside it. Great, I'm not going to throw this error. Here I am in JavaScript. I'll first look into outside of this scope. Here in the outer scope, oh, I found x. Now the x value will be outer. If I don't have it here also, then what will happen? Here I'm trying to find the value of x. No, not there. Okay, I'm not going to throw error. I'm going to look outside. Imagine a pointer going out over here. Do I have x here? No, I don't have x here. Okay, let's look out. Let's go out of this function. Oh, I'm in global. Global, there is an x. So here the value will be global. If I don't have this also, that means till global I have reached. Outside of global is nothing. If I don't find it here I'll be getting a reference error. I'm trying to use a variable without declaring it. All right. So this is how it is. I hope this you understood basically when we did the stuff. Okay, write a function, factory function of counter to increment, decrement, reset a counter, use a closure to refer to the count value across the functions. Okay, so in the closure session, we explained about that the usefulness of it. So let's talk about a little bit, like why exactly it is required. We know that we can create a function inside another function. We call it as inner function. And the value that JavaScript provides is when you are having the inner function, a function inside a function, there are some ways you can preserve or memorize the value from your outer function even after your outer function is executed. JavaScript gives you that mechanism to use. But what is the usefulness of it? Let's try to think about it. One of the great usefulness of it is to create something like an encapsulation. It means that from the outside world, you don't want to share a particular variable, but that particular variable's value you can utilize to do some computation, and you want to finally return that computation back. Correct? So it sounds like something like a private variable, to a function that you don't want to expose to your outside world. I had taken an example, I think, with ATM machine or the balance, something like that in the session, like a particular balance. I was creating a bank account, right? A particular balance I don't want to expose. Like if you are having a bank account where you are withdrawing the amount or depositing the amount, you go to an ATM machine. They ask you, hey, how much amount do you want to withdraw? You say 100 rupees. Now, after 100 rupees withdrawal, you get the 100 rupees back. It doesn't show you the balance right there, unless it asks you like, hey, do you want to see your balance? Then you say yes, and then it shows the balance. But until you say yes, it doesn't show you a balance. It just gives you the withdrawn amount. That's how it is, right? Once you're withdrawing amount, you don't have to really know your balance. When you're depositing an amount, you don't have to really know your balance. But remember this, if you had 100 rupees in your pocket and you have given 50 rupees more as a deposit. Now your balance is 150. You had 100 rupees as your balance. You have taken out 50 rupees, right? So you have withdrawn 50 rupees. 50 rupees is with you, but your balance is now reduced to 50. You got your 50 rupees back, but you really don't have to know whatever was your balance was and what is the current balance, right? If you don't want to know. So that's how the balance can be a private value, in your application. But using the balance only, now the current balance can be computed after withdrawal or after deposit. So this is the power of closure, where you can close on a particular value that you don't want to expose with the outside world, but you can utilize that value to compute something and give the final result to the outside world. This is exactly what I have explained with example over there. And here I had given a task, say, write a function, factory function, where you can have a counter and you can increment, decrement, and things like that. So I think I have this one. I'll just quickly check if I have this code. Just give me a second. Yeah, I have this code. Yeah. So let's take this and let me explain. I'm sure like most of you have done this, but it's pretty simple. Yeah. So I've created a function called create counter, and this particular function is having a variable called count. And my intention over is to give the user of this function a bunch of function to increment this count variable, decrement this count variable, or reset this count variable. But I don't want to expose this count variable to them. I don't want them to access this count variable and directly set value. Many of you use React, right? You create state using useState. There you are not, it is not recommended that you mutate the state directly. Rather, a function will be given to you, updater function will be given to you. Through that only you update the state. Are you finding some similarity? Similar to that, here state value is count, count is 0. I don't want you to update this count directly. Rather, I'm giving you a bunch of updater function through which you can update this count. And I can achieve it in a plain JavaScript using closure. So I have to closure. Why it is called closure? Because you close on a value. You close that value, you put that value in the box so that nobody else can access that value from outside. But you can give them the result based on that value. That's why it is closure. So here you closed this particular value called count. You're not exposing it, but you're exposing certain methods like return, this increment, decrement, reset. These are methods, right? Because this is an object. Inside object, if you have a key whose value is a function, we call it as method. We have learned that in the object session also. This is how 40 days of JavaScript is superb, guys. Everything is connected. So you have increment, decrement, all this thing, all these functions. Once you call increment, you are seeing what is happening. Count, you are able to increment and you are actually returning this count or you are printing this count. So it means that this count can be accessed with the scope chain from any of this inner function. And when you are actually accessing these functions later point in time, the count variable's value was alive. It was memorized. So first time when I do create counter, I get this counter, and on top of this counter, when I do increment, the count value get incremented to 1. After that, if I do increment again, the value will be again 1 or 2. It will be 2, because the last time incremented value will be remembered inside this function, and that is the power, so that it can always work on the latest data. So if I do 2-time increment, the count will be 2. Then if I do 1-time decrement, the count will be again 1, because it is getting decremented. Anytime if I do reset, it will reset to 0. So this is what it is. Increment 2 times, it become 1, 2. Again I decremented, it become 1. Here it never got reinitialized to count equals to 1. Here it never got reinitialized to count equals to 1. Because count was incremented to 2, I have decremented 1, it become 1. If I do decrement 1 more, it will become 0. Anytime if I do reset, I am doing a hard reset. So this is where you will be using closure, where you don't want to expose a particular variable to the outside world, but you want to utilize to build some functionalities, and that functionality you want to expose to the outside world. Because after the execution of your outer function, which is like create counter, which is got executed over here, the closed variable is still alive in your other inner functions. So whenever we did increment, decrement, it was alive. Very simple closure thing. I hope that you will never forget it, right? Okay, so what else we have? Can you attach the cars1 describe method to car2's object? I think this is pretty easy actually. What we have a car1, a particular object where we have key value pair and a method. Car2 again a key value pair, but it doesn't have the describe method. So question here is, can you basically reuse this describe method for car2? How can you do this? So we know like how can we do this, right? When there are two independent contexts in which the methods are being executed, and if you have to use something from other context, you can use something called explicit binding. We have learned that in the session of this. So here this describe method in the context of car1, when we are doing car1 dot describe, it means the describe is in the context of car1. But I want this should be executed in the context of car2. If I want that, then I have to use something called an explicit binding. And what are the ways that we can do explicit binding in JavaScript? There are a bunch of ways we can do. We can do using call, we can do using apply, we can do using bind. So what will be the easiest way to fix this one? I'm not even going to my JavaScript file, just writing it over for you. I can do car1 dot describe, get this particular method, the function, can call the call function on top of it, which JavaScript gives us. Every function has that, and then can pass the context, the object on which context this particular describe method should be available. So this is how I can do call. Instead of call, I can here do apply. I have explained what is the difference between call and apply. I can even do a bind over here, but in that case, this won't be executed immediately, or it won't be attached immediately. Rather, it will give me a new function altogether, and that function I have to execute, right? So that was the difference between a call, apply, and bind. So with that, you can actually do this. Excellent. Now there is another question. This question came up in the form that the Google form that I have shared, and also in our Discord. So look at this particular guy. There is a user object. Let's go one by one. There is a user object, and the user object is having something called a name, and then it has something called a method called greet. Greet is a function. Inside that function, you have a console.log, and there is a this keyword. Then there is an inner function again, and the inner function is getting called here. Inside inner function, there is another console.log, and again the this keyword. And here finally we are invoking user.method, this particular greet method. Now, what exactly is going to happen, and how are you going to explain this? The question was, in the given user object, inside the greet function, this refers to the user object, because we told that there is something called implicit binding, where if you are invoking a method, you have to always see on which object this particular method is getting invoked. And if there is a this used inside that particular method, this always refer to the object on which we are invoking the method. So here this is I closing, it is the user. Correct? Now the second part of the question is, according to the scope mechanism, I have an inner function. So that means it should always go to the outer function. So that means this particular this should resolve to user again. That is what the question is. But what is happening when you execute this particular function, it is referring to the window object. I think that is the case. The question is why exactly this is the case. Now how you should be understanding this particular thing is that there is a concept of lexical scope. And for these keywords especially, you have to think one thing very well, keep it in your mind. Don't try to figure out what is the value of this just by looking into where exactly it is placed. This value will always depend on where exactly the associated function, wherever the this is invoked. If you actually keep this mental model, then I think you can answer any of this kind of question in any interview or anywhere. Okay, so let's repeat it once again. Looking into the code, like where exactly this is used, don't try to answer that looking into where exactly this particular code is placed. Rather try to answer that how this and where this particular code is being executed. Now, this particular code can be executed only because this greet is getting called. Greet is getting called. And through implicit binding rule, we know in this case, this will refer to the user object. Problem solved. Here, it looks like this inner function is having a this over here. Now, you might get confused thinking that this is an inner function. So it means that it will have that kind of invisible arrow outside as a scope chain and going to resolve to the outside. No, that's not the case. The function inner is invoked over here. So you have to look into the invocation time. At the time of invocation, this inner function, it is nothing but a plain old JavaScript function. And this is not bound to any scope as such. That's why you should not be looking into where exactly this is placed. Rather, you should be looking into where and when this was invoked. So as this is not bound to any scope, here the scope mechanism won't work. What will work here in the execution time of this inner function, what will be the value of this? That's how you should be thinking. Now we know by the rules is like if it is a plain old JavaScript function, irrespective of wherever it is, if it is a non-arrow plain old JavaScript function, the value of this always point to the window object if you are executing this code in the non-strict mode. If you are executing this code in the JavaScript strict mode, then it will result into an undefined, not even the window object. So always go by the rule of the this keywords execution. Then your answer will be very, very clear. So with that particular logic, now this will be either a window or an undefined based on you're running on strict mode or the non-strict mode. But if you are thinking from this positioning perspective and the scope perspective, then you will be confused. Oh, probably it will be going to the outer scope. No, it is not going to the outer scope. It is not going to the outer scope because this is not bound to the scope. Okay. Now, how can you fix this one? I think you know the answer. You can change this particular function to an arrow function, and you know I have actually taught you like how this works for the arrow function and why this particular things will be fixed. This is very well explained in the session itself. I'm sure like you can take it from there, but I just tried to answer this question. Okay, so I have a few more other questions I'll quickly try to answer that I've got through. And then I'll get into if there is any question on the chat, I'll try to answer them. Okay, after a few days I forget syntax. Is it natural or how to remember? Okay, this is very natural. Even I don't remember syntax after 20 years of working. So it is very natural. You will forget syntax. Everybody forgets syntax. Once you forget syntax, please Google. Or if you're referring any book, do that. You have ChatGPT, you have many other AI tools. You can always take help of them to get the syntax correct. There is really no shame for that. You copy the syntax, you use it in your code, but please remember that you have to know what you're copying because you are responsible for that copied code. Tomorrow it is misbehaving, it means people will misbehave with you. So make sure that you understand what you're copying. But forgetting syntax is perfectly fine. Don't even be a sleepless developer because you're forgetting syntax. Where can we use wasting and what is temporal dead zone? There is a dedicated video for this one. Wasting and temporal dead zone. I would request you to please go through that video, and if you have further question, please catch me or catch the community on Discord. Okay, what are actual steps that we should keep in mind when we start writing a code for a particular project? Okay, so I think the first few questions that I have answered, I try to give you guys that thought process like how I do, and for every developer it is different. Every developer, they actually target a problem solution in a different way. It will be different for you as well. But over the period of time, what I started doing is like whenever I get a requirement, I try to break that requirement first, as simple as possible way, so that it can go to the level of variable creation. That I have to create this variable because I have to store this data. I have to create this variable because I have to store that data. I have to create this function because this looks like a reusable code. I have to use this in multiple places. So I have to code also look like clean. I'll create smaller functions. So your thought process should come from that, right? How you'll be breaking a problem statement into smaller pieces. And then in the granular level, how do you identify what is the data that your application or the project will be working on, and what kind of data that you have to define. That is where data structure also come into picture. So far we have only touched till the object data structure. There will be array, there will be map, there will be other things as well, so based on what kind of data your application is looking for, you will be defining that kind of data structure in your project. And then you have the variables for that. And then each of the functionalities, you try to identify how you can break the functionalities into different functions. While doing that, now you have different functions. Now, while writing one function or thinking about one function, if you feel that that function can be further broken because a part of it can be reused somewhere else, that calls for the next level of function breaking. Now you might think here, oh my God, this is like too much. I have to first understand the requirement, I have to break things, I have to do this. Yes, you have to do it. That's how you become an efficient and effective programmer. Because the more you do this, more you bring that in practice, tomorrow it will become very, very usual to you. You will do it in sleep. So please try to break your problem statement, get to variables, get to function, the relationship between the function, the relationship between the data, and then you start writing the code. And while writing the code, you will again improvise your initial thought. It might not be accurate always, and you will change that. That is also very, very usual. Nobody can put 100% on the design on a paper and then code the design matching 100%. It very rarely happen, but in many cases it happens that you reiterate your thought process while coding also. You come back to the problem again. So that's how you will be basically doing it. Okay, actual uses of closure I have already explained. I know if I don't learn properly, the certificate value will not work, but we request, this is coming from the post that I have made, like if you finish this 40 days of JavaScript, I'll put certain rules and regulations, and if you meet those rules and regulations, I can get you a certificate that you have completed. That's not mandatory, but it's a feel-good factor. You should not be learning JavaScript to get anybody's certificate. My certificate to leave it probably don't have any value in the world, but there are many other people, for whom you pay by purchase course, and you want the certificate, but you should not be doing only for the certificate. You should be doing for learning, and you should be feeling really, really great about yourself, proud about yourself once you move from one to another and you gain confidence on logic building and understanding the concept. For coming back to the certificate, yes, this is in my mind. I'm actually, with the help of few awesome guys, building tapaScript.io website. So I'll try to put that in that website itself. Like once you completed, all the 40 videos, you can submit something that I'm looking for, and once you submit, you can get this certificate download. And if you feel happy about it, I'll be more than happy. Okay. So next is, I am finding difficulties for getting even a single freelancing small project. Okay, this is not related to JavaScript, it's about freelancing. Is there any particular approach that would help me to finding? Okay, it's been a while that I have done freelancing gig on the project. I still do a lot of freelancing thing in terms of content creation, like blogging, video making, and all these things. For coding related freelancing also, I believe some of the things will be in common. So first thing is, like, you need a platform. So there are freelancing platform you can register yourself with. But the problem is getting the first assignment. Until you get the first assignment, nobody knows you. So till you get the first assignment, you have to make sure that how are you approaching different people to get the assignment. That's where I think the proof of work matters a lot. So for example, if you have done project, you make sure that your GitHub profile is rich. You are available and showing yourself, showing your work on platform like LinkedIn or X. You are building great connections on all this platform who are actually watching over the period of time that you are doing some good work. If I take a reference, like I got my first writing gig for writing articles because I was continuously publishing on my blog and dev.to. So somebody noticed me, an organization noticed me on dev.to, my article. They reached out to me and they told, hey, we are going to pay you 250 USD per article. Do you want to write? I said, what? What are you saying? Nobody is paying me 0 rupees. You're going to pay me 250 USD for one article? Yes, I'm going to do it. So that's what I was discovered, because I was there. I was putting my proof of work in front of people and people notice it. Now, if you say like, okay, you're doing it 2 days, 3 days a week and say nothing is happening, I'm going home, that's probably the mistake that you are going to do. That's the 7 days that you spent on it, you're going to make a complete waste of it. I would say that be on it, be consistent, keep doing it, make your skill up, you will find it, and build a good connection wherever you are, on the LinkedIn, X, wherever you are on, or Facebook, wherever you are. Technical connections, good technical connections, so that people can start seeing your work consistently. They notice you, and you will get references as well. So that is one thing that worked with me, and that is the thing that I can actually talk about. There could be many other things. People who are watching this, you can probably comment if you have come across, because the person who asked this question, I'm sure that person will be of dire need. If you can tell about your own experience, I think it is going to help the person as well. Okay, if we are beginners who's learning JavaScript, we have big problem of building logics and how to think. Like Dave, I would like to give advice for this problem also. Sometimes we feel lack of confidence and think we don't know anything. Okay, would like to give it. Okay, yeah. See, this is a very common problem. I mean, without knowing something, how will you know things, right? Without doing something, you have to do things. It's as simple as that. The thing is, apart from the technical abilities and the technical skills, you also got to have a few soft skills among yourself. The soft skill is like you should have patience, because these are not overnight things. This happens after some time. After some time means you yourself will feel that you are doing good than before. So that is the time. That is the time is probably you are in a state where if you progress for some more time, something good is going to happen, right? I'm sure like some of you are able to connect with what I'm saying. It happened to me, it happened to many people. But that cannot happen on the first day unless this is a magic, right? Or black magic. So how it should happen is like you consistently as a beginner put your effort in understanding fundamentals. By the way, I'm surprised. Nobody asked me a AI question like when AI is going to take my job. I'm very surprised. But irrespective of any distractions, what exactly finally going to work for you is how much knowledge you have on the fundamentals and the problem solving. Knowledge you can gain daily basis. Knowledge is not a permanent thing. I say it's a temporary thing, because today you have some knowledge, tomorrow you have some other knowledge, you will gain it. But problem solving, believe me, is something which is permanent. If you know to solve problem, if you know to think logically, and if you tune yourself, like AI is tuning the model and all this thing, you tune your own brain, you actually depending on your brain much to solve the problem, that's where you make difference. But if you don't use your brain, you give somebody else to solve the problem, you will be at the place where you were some years before. It might sound really pessimistic, but that's how the case is. That's how it will be. That's how the differentiator are. So if you are a beginner, make sure how you will be making your fundamentals strong, your problem solving, giving enough time, have patience, do things consistently. Things will happen to you. If you forget something, no problem. That's why this 40 days of JavaScript initiative is important, where you're taking notes, you're getting back to your notes so that you're revising things among yourself and do a lot of practice. That's how you gain confidence as well. Okay, so these are the questions that whatever I had, and then I'll go to, there are a bunch of questions on the chat. So let me see if these are questions or these are comments. Okay, so somebody said we need a project where we can work with object. Definitely, we will have project where we can work with object. It's not only that you will have a project where you can work with object, you will have a project where you'll be working with object and array together. Okay, so next we'll be doing exception handling. After that, we'll be doing array. And right after array, I'll be giving you an assignment. In that assignment, you'll be building something using object, array, and everything you have learned, and that will be quite big. As you have not done DOM, we won't be doing anything in the UI, but we'll be doing a lot of things in the logic. And the same project I am also going to build. I am also going to share about that particular project, but you have to build the things with all the things that you have learned. So definitely it will be there. Okay. Okay, is there a way to deeply copy an array similar to the object? Yes, there is. I'll definitely touch base. And fundamentally, an array is also an object. So that's the hint. So you know like how to do it. but I'm going to definitely touch base in the array session. Okay, people are saying that they feel, the problem with the building logic. I will reiterate again. The problem of building logic is not only yours. Okay, let's spend maybe another 2 minutes on this topic. What I have found interacting with many of my mentees, as a mentor, talking to a lot of mentees over the globe, looking into my own people that I actually go with, somehow this logic building, all these things are depending on our background also, like the background that we are coming from, like the education that we had, the kind of exposure that we had, on the childhood, or maybe genetic, maybe in the gene, it could be anything, any of the things. But despite all these factors, if someone really wants to build logic, problem solving, they have to work hard, irrespective of everything, all this factor. And believe me, working hard, working on the problem, that is why I'm giving tasks, 10 tasks, 6 tasks, 7 tasks, so that you guys will start thinking. It's okay if you can't do it, but you start thinking. And I have to start thinking about this particular use case. This mindset is the first step towards problem solving. Then comes the fundamental knowledge of it. Okay, I have to check whether this is bigger. What I have to use? I have to use some kind of operator, like what operator it is. Okay, I have to have a number, I have to slice this number and get the last digit. What is that operator will give me? So first is identify what I have to do in my plain English or mother tongue. Then in the fundamentals, in the programming, what is the thing that is going to give me that value? These two you have to connect. Once you do that, done. You will be doing really great in problem solving, but you have to keep doing it. Okay, so when AI is taking our job and when we start doing farming, see, the thing is, like, I retired from my job. I think in 2023, it's 2025 now. Exactly 2 years back, I retired from my job, thinking that I'll be doing farming, I'll be doing organic farm, and maybe I'll be spending time over there. But a programmer, once a programmer is always a programmer. So I again started continuing teaching, then started my own company, continue to teach, continue to do my own company stuff. Never stopped. Maybe I'll be still doing farming one day, but it's not because of AI. It's something, the farming, that probably I like and I'll be doing someday. The AI taking the job is probably it's a different discussion, maybe a live some other day. But to put it very short, is like, I will try to say, is like, use your brain. Use your brain to use AI effectively. You must use AI. You should not run away from AI. So there are multiple type of AI users. One is AI users. For example, I use ChatGPT, you use ChatGPT. We try to get a solution of a problem where we are stuck, and we use the problem, but we have to know what is the solution in and out, so that tomorrow somebody asks me to explain, I can explain it very well. So I am the user of AI over here, and I can practically use AI to deliver something. I am still a developer, but I am using AI to accelerate my work. One stream. Another stream, I am an AI enthusiast. I want to know how people are building so many things using AI, and I want to build something similar using AI. I have my programming background and I know a bit about AI, maybe at the API level, maybe at the usage level, but the programmatic usage level, not the user usage level, which is with ChatGPT, Gemini and all. But I can grab an API key and I can programmatically use an AI model with my fundamental knowledge of Python and JavaScript, and want to build something. Second grade of user, still you have work for it. Third grade of user, I am an AI super enthusiast. I want to know how the searching algorithm works. I want to know what exactly happened to the nodes when I apply the search algorithm. I want to get into that level, and I want to try to build something with the AI and the machine learning algorithm. That's the third level of developer, right? Job is there for all these developers. Job is not there for whom? Job is not there for the person who gave up, thinking that AI has already came and taken the job, ruined my life, and crying in the corner of the room. That person is definitely going to lose the job. Maybe doing the farming or something else, I don't know. But that person is really having the tough time, because the person is thinking really, really wild, overboard, and listening to a lot of things that people are talking, either to sell their product, either to market something, either to become popular, sell the content, or many other things. But if you just put your brain, you will understand in today's age, you have to learn AI. You have to make use of AI. You have to know how to get that AI sprinkled in your life wherever you are working, because that's how you stay relevant. But it doesn't mean that you will be sitting on your chair and then you will do some command and everything is done and everything is over and you are going home. You still need some intervention of yours in the programming. You still need the intervention of yours in terms of debugging, in terms of making your customer is satisfied, or in terms of building something which will be automatically doing things for the customer. So you are still needed, you are still relevant. So guys, AI is there, AI will be there with its more and full potential, but make sure that you are also getting glued to it along with your fundamentals. You cannot escape the fundamentals. Okay, you are my guru. Okay, software developer lunges. Thank you, boss Vishnu. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, man. I'm very glad that whatever in whatever length I can actually help you guys, and if you guys are getting help from me, I'm very happy with that. Okay, somebody asked a question, reversing a number, how do you get to know the modular of 10 by 10 only? Yeah, so when I'm taking a number, it's not a binary number. So what is the radix of it? It's not going to be 2, right? It's a decimal number. So it is always going to be 10. That's how it is. It's a very simple. That's what I told, that logic building is associated with your background, your study, what's your base. So some of these things you would have studied maybe in some mathematics, whether in some class or first year of engineering, or some class you would have learned this basic funda of mathematics, like what is a binary number, what is a decimal number. So if you have a decimal number, 6798 was a decimal number, and I have to get the last digit, I'll always do the module by 10. Correct, na? So depending on what is the number type, I will take that as a radix, and that's what I'll be using to get the module, right? So that's how that's a pure math. So if you have some knowledge in math, you are able to use it in the programming and able to get the logic out. That's how it is, Vandana. Okay. Could you please help me to get rid of procrastination, and what should be our daily routine? Oh my God. So talking about procrastination, everybody does, I guess. There are some superman or superwoman in this world. They are really on time. They are doing everything that they are planning. But most of the people do procrastination. I'm doing this live after procrastinating for a long time. I should have done it before. But how this thing works is the procrastination. How I feel that the way that you can come out is always think of the fact. If I don't do it now, what is the repercussion? I think that particular thought really pushed me to do my high priority work. If I don't do it, I have to submit something. If I'm not submitting now, for example, income tax, I have to submit it by 31st of March, and I'm procrastinating on this. Okay, I'll be doing maybe 31st of March midnight or something like that, and that is the time probably the server is down. Something is happening, I'm not able to submit it, and I have to pay the penalty. If I am scared of it, if I am really concerned about that fact that because of procrastination I have an adverse impact on my life, I will stop procrastinating. Most of us don't think about that after fact. We face that after fact, but we don't think about that after fact. So if you're procrastinating, if you're watching a movie, binge watching a movie, sitting on the couch, instead of going out and paying your electricity bill, somebody is going to come and cut your electricity. That's what it is. You should think about it. You'll stop doing procrastination. And then always give a priority of your top 3 work. Sometimes also procrastination happen because of burnout. You have so many things to do and you feel like, oh man, okay, chalega, later point of time, I don't want to do it now. That feeling comes from burnout. So procrastination caused by burnout. So make sure that you always have the high priority item defined, first 2 or 3 tasks, and then only you have the low priority task, maybe later point of time to look into. These are some of the things that I have tried in my life. Many times it works. Sometimes I still do procrastination. Can't help, basically. Okay, quickly to look into other quick things if I have. Okay, I think I have answered most of the question. Mm, okay, so there are some question about my Bangla channel. I'm just quickly clarify before I close. Uh, I have a lot of things to do in a day, from morning to night. I'm a very very busy person. In a sense, like I have a company to run, I have two YouTube channels to run, I have a family to take care. I need time to breathe, and of course I'm a human. I'm still not fully dependent on doing all these things with AI and thinking that AI will do all these things for me. Maybe someday, but whatever the time that I get, again, I try to do the priority. I always work on priority. I don't work on low priority items. I always work on high priority items. So when I have Bangla and English channel, I had a Bangla channel. I have a Bangla channel, and I started something on React. That point in time, it was very high priority for me to push some of the initial video of React, initial video of JavaScript, because there are a lot of folks I actually came across and from the Bangla community is they are missing the basics. That's why I have given a bunch of videos on covering the basics of JavaScript, basics of React. Then I started this 40 days of JavaScript thinking that I am going deep down into React in Bangla, but many of these folks are really not understanding lot of very layman concept in JavaScript. So they have to first do JavaScript really well to do React much better way. They have to understand how asynchronous programming works really well to deal with lot of asynchronousness in the React. They know like I should not mutate my state directly. There should be an updated function. But in an interview, somebody asks why it is so. I'm sure that most of the people will be itching their head, won't be able to answer that question. Okay, what is that JavaScript principle used behind state management in React? If this is a question asked in an interview, I'm sure most of you will be stumbled and will start thinking, maybe answer will be, I don't know. But once we are learning about closure, once we are learning about some of this JavaScript concept and then look into React, we better understand where it is coming from. And I want you to connect from there. This is why I took a pause in the Bangla channel React. I want to cover the JavaScript 40 days of JavaScript to a great length. I'm going to go back to Bangla channel again, finished my playlist on React, that's a promise, and make sure that the channel is also running, both the channels are running the way that it used to run. So with my limited capacity and bandwidth, right now my focus is 40 days of JavaScript. I want to give it a real push because seeing a lot of benefit out of it. A lot of people are telling that they're getting benefited out of it. And I'm sure my Bangla buddies, Bangla folks are also going to get a lot of benefits out of it. All right. Okay, I need water. So I've been speaking for the last 1.5 hours. So thank you everyone for joining this live. And if you're watching it later, if you have any question, please feel free. I'm going to give all the link in the description of this video. Please go ahead, join the Discord, ask question. And more than that, if you are someone who is using JavaScript for some time, help the community. Because again, the time is limited for me. I cannot be present everywhere, every time. If you can come, help with questions, help somebody, your fellow developer, to move couple of steps ahead in their career and life, what you're going to get is a good karma. And that's going to lead you in your life in a much better way, guys. So thank you very much. Have a great night, great day. I'll be coming back again when we touch session 20th with our second live. Okay, until then, see you in the session. Thank you very much.